Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first episode of the H&H Sports Podcast. I am Tanner Hicks alongside my co-host Jackson Huey. And yeah, like I said, this is a sports podcast. H&H Podcast is going to be mainly talking about basketball and football on both the collegiate and the professional levels. We may sprinkle in some baseball here and there if we feel like it. But yeah, it's mainly going to be basketball and football. Yeah, man, I'm ready to start this episode. I'm really excited. Jackson, why don't you tell everyone what this episode is going to be about?
Yeah, we're basically just going to dive into our NFL standings predictions, and then talk about each team along the way, pretty much.
Yeah, so it's basically going to be a NFL offseason recap, but we're doing it while we predict the NFL standings for next year. So it's just going to be an easy way of recapping the NFL offseason. So we're going to do our AFC team and then our NFC team, and then we're just alternate back and forth. So for the 16th seed in the AFC, I have the Houston Texans, to nobody's surprise. The biggest story of the Texans offseason has been the whole Deshaun Watson fiasco. Deshaun Watson gets investigated by the NFL. He sits out all of last season because he wants to be traded. And it became a huge distraction across the entire NFL, not just with the Texans organization. And they waited all year and, most of the offseason to trade him. And they finally found a suitor in the Cleveland Browns. We will get to the Cleveland Browns when we see them in the standings.
They got a haul.
They got a haul for Deshaun Watson. Cleveland gave them so much. They gave him 3 1s, a lot of mid-round picks as well. They have already used a couple of the picks that they got in the draft a couple months ago. But the Texans are bad, to put it nicely. They are bad. They didn't really get much better over the offseason. They did draft Kenyon Green in the first round, a mauler on the offensive line, something they really needed badly. That gives them flexibility with Titus Howard to move him back to his natural position at right tackle. Keep Larry Tunsil at left tackle, put Titus Howard back at right tackle, and just plug and play Kenyon Green, instant starter. Now they got 3 cornerstone pieces on the offensive line. Davis Mills was exceptional for the last quarter of the season, I would say. Yeah, that's pretty much all you have to say with the Texans. I think they signed Marlon Mack, right?
Don't quote me on that.
I think he did go to the Texans, but I don't really know how much that changes.
Texans are my 16 seed too. I don't think Davis Mills is a long-term answer there.
Really?
I really look for them to be very bad this year and either go after Bryce Young or CJ Stroud.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. I think them making that decision all depends on how well Davis Mills plays this year, because last year he played exceptional with very little receiving options. He
was very good
for as little wide receiver protection he had.
Yes.
He played well. Like against the Titans, he had over 300 passing yards, and he had 300 passing yards about 4 times last season, which was, like I said, for the receivers that the Texans have is pretty exceptional. So I would count on Davis Mills having a better season, but they do have a new head coach in Lovie Smith, who isn't a great offensive coach. But yeah, I do think Davis Mills is going to be fine, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do go after quarterback in next year's draft.
All right, there's a lot of talent in next year's draft.
A lot of talent. Texans could take plenty. The 16th seed in the NFC. You go first with this one.
I have the Detroit Lions. I think they'll be better. I just don't see them. I don't see really many. I mean, I guess it's a couple teams you could argue for that spot at the bottom of the NFC, but I think Aiden Hutchinson will be really good.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so many question marks on offense, I think.
Yeah, that is fair. I have Seattle. I have Seattle as last. That team is horrific. Top to bottom,
It is pretty bad.
top to bottom, I think Seattle has a bottom 5 roster.
There's a big question mark at quarterback, but they do have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett still.
Yeah, they. Other than that, there's not a lot of bright spots. They, of course, the biggest thing, they trade Russell Wilson to Denver in the offseason. They get a haul for Russell Wilson, as they should have, but they do get Drew Lock, Noah Fant, Shelby Harris. I think those are the only 3 players, and they get some draft capital along there as well. But even
Geno
when
Smith versus Drew Lock should be an interesting QB battle, to say the least.
One of the worst QB rooms we may have seen in a while. The Seattle's gonna, fight tooth and nail all year for that number 1 overall pick next year. Like I said earlier,
Texans looking for Stroud or Bryce Young.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I think Seattle is a bottom 5 roster. They lose Russell Wilson. They lose Bobby Wagner. Chris Carson's football career is probably over. They gain in some young players like Drew Lock and Noah Fant. I'm not sure Drew Lock is the long-term answer in Seattle. I do like the Noah Fant pickup. I do think that'll be an answer at tight end, but they still have a lot of ground to cover for that roster. They did draft Charles Cross at number 9 overall.
Solid pickup.
They desperately needed that. They waited till they traded Russell Wilson to get offensive linemen, which is hilarious. But
yeah.
Seattle's gonna be bad. Seattle's gonna be really bad. Okay, who do you have as your 15th seed in the AFC?
The Jacksonville Jaguars.
I have the same thing.
I think they'll be better, like the Lions. I really thought they should have went offensive line with the first pick.
Who'd they take?
They took
Trayvon Walker first overall.
Yeah, Trayvon Walker. My bad. I blanked. That's still a solid pick.
It is.
But I feel like offensive line was more of a concern.
Yeah, offensive linemen don't have a great track record at going first overall.
That is fair too.
But
Trevor needs help bad.
Trevor, he does need help. But I love the Coach Peterson or Doug Peterson hiring at head coach. He's a quarterback guru. He was great with first couple years with Carson Wentz. He obviously is a Super Bowl winning coach, so he has proven before to be a winner at head coach. But the Jags still have a lot of question marks. They paid Christian Kirk so much money, although
broke
it is
the wide receiver market.
Although it is fake money a lot, it's a very team friendly contract. It's still a lot of money to be paying someone like Christian Kirk. 4 years, 72. I'm pretty sure it is.
That's a lot of money for who's arguably not a number 1 receiver.
He's not at all. He's arguably not even a number 2.
Yeah, fair. I was being nice.
Yeah. Yeah, the Jags are not a very good team. They did also draft Devin Lloyd in the first round, but I know they did get some hits in the first round with Devin Lloyd. Trayvon Walker is very raw. We will cover the draft in more full detail in the next episode of the podcast, so you guys stay tuned for that. But Trayvon Walker is very pass rushing wise. He's extremely raw. All of people's views on him as a pass rusher are all just projections, because he's a very good run stopper. As you saw in Georgia, he was a very great run stopper. But all of his pass rushing, he
had 6 sacks last year.
Yeah, for a first overall pick. I don't know. I'm not saying he's any bad.
He had 36 QB hurries.
In 15 games that they played?
Yeah, he played in all 15 games, started in all 15 games, and had a team high 36 QB hurries.
That's not horrible, but when you draft him to be. I don't know if they drafted him to be a pass rusher, but all of his pass rushing is just projection. Is what you think is going to happen. He's a very raw prospect. I don't blame them for taking him number 1 overall because he's a great football player, but I personally would have taken Aiden Hutchinson or Evan Neal or even Thibodeau in that spot over Trayvon Walker. Trayvon Walker should have definitely been a top 10 pick in the draft, but number 1 overall is a very big reach.
Yeah, I really looked for them to go Evan Neal. That's who I honestly thought it was going to be.
I thought they were taking Thibodeau, but like a day or two before the draft, speculations rose that the Jaguars GMs just loved Trayvon Walker, and you can say that as a GM when you have the first pick because you're not afraid of people taking him before you because you have the first pick. So I don't know. We'll see how Trayvon Walker fares in the NFL. I think he'll be a great run defender. I kind of view him as like a Clowney type of player who's isn't the greatest pass rusher, isn't the greatest at getting to the quarterback, but he's a very solid run defender. But who knows? Maybe he will develop those pass rushing.
He could.
For 15 seed in the NFC, I have Detroit. Pretty much all the same things you said. They did get better. They drafted Aiden Hutchinson.
I'm sorry. Who was your 16 seed in the NFC?
NFC was Seattle.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. Forgot.
15, I do have Detroit. They drafted Aiden Hutchinson 2 overall. It was a great pickup. Is the hometown kid staying in Detroit, or staying in Michigan rather. I think it'll fit very well with that defense that Dan Campbell has. He'll, set him straight, make him a super solid player. They didn't get much better, but
they got a little better. But like I said, they still need.
They also drafted Jameson Williams. I almost forgot they drafted Jameson
How
Williams.
did I forget that?
They trade up with the Bears, I'm pretty sure, in the first round to grab Jameson Williams, which was one of the best picks in the first round in my mind. They steal him at number 12. I personally thought he was going to be the first receiver off the board, but Drake London went at 8. So they grab Jameson Williams. They grab Aiden Hutchinson. It's an okay offseason for the Lions. I do still think they're going to finish at the bottom of the conference, but it'll come with time. I think they still need to build that roster up for the eventual QB that will replace Jared Goff. But who knows? Maybe Jared Goff will be a Super Bowl quarterback.
Turns it around, man.
All right, 14 seed in the AFC. Who you got?
Did I give you my 15 in the NFC?
Oh, you didn't. My fault.
I got the Falcons.
Atlanta
at the 15. They did add Marcus Mariota at quarterback.
The GOAT himself.
I can't remember who did they draft?
They drafted Drake London at 8.
That's right. They did draft Drake London.
And they drafted Arnold Ebiketie in the second round. He's a pass rusher out of Penn State, who I love, by the way. Loved Ebiketie. I'm surprised he fell as far as he did.
But yeah, they got Kyle Pitts, obviously. I think they're still a bottom team in the NFC.
Yeah, their roster is terrible, especially the offensive line is horrific. Yeah. They also did draft Desmond Ridder in the second round.
They did take Ridder.
Knowing Mariota's injury history, I do expect Ridder to possibly start some games this year, but I do think Mariota will win the job in training camp. But that roster is horrific. They did sign Casey Hayward in the offseason. I don't know much of that will help, but they had a solid draft, I thought. But they're not going to be very good.
Yeah, it's tough going in Atlanta.
14 seed in the AFC. Who do you got?
All right, this one really hinges. I got the Browns right there.
Even without Deshaun Watson?
Without Deshaun Watson, I got the Browns there. If Deshaun plays, they move up, obviously. Because
14th in the conference?
man,
Wow.
that's where I got them.
Some Manziel teams did better than that. And you think even without quarterback, I do think top to bottom, this Browns team is good.
They have a very good running back room, I will say that.
Yeah, but I think the only question they do have in their team is the front seven and their quarterback situation, obviously. But man, you got them that low, even with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback.
Got them that low.
That's wild. I have the Jets at that spot. Although they did get marginally better, everybody thinks the Jets are going to be the new Bengals this year. You know, Zach Wilson takes this huge step like Joe Burrow did last year, and they're a fun young team. They get back Carl Lawson off of a torn Achilles last year. They draft
Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, they draft Garrett Wilson, Ahmad Gardner at 4. They're an okay roster. They're a very young roster, but I do think this roster's good. They draft.
They also got Jermaine Johnson.
Oh yeah, they stole Jermaine Johnson in the 20s, whatever pick they got him at.
Breece Hall's a solid pickup too.
Breece Hall was my running back 1. Or I just thought he was the best running back in the class. And they stole him in the second round, just like they stole Jermaine Johnson in the second round too. I thought the Jets had a top 3 draft, in my opinion.
I think Jermaine was in the first.
Yeah, Jermaine Johnson fell in the late first round. I thought he was going to be a top 10 pick. But yeah. I guess questions about him being older.
I guess so.
Scared teams a little bit.
He obviously dropped a lot because
he did. I thought he was going to go in the first round or in the top 10 at least. But he fell all the way in the mid-20s for the Jets to get him. I thought the Jets had a top 3 draft. I thought they killed it, but I do think they're still young. Robert Saleh is going into year 2 as the head coach. If Zach Wilson does take this next step towards being a good quarterback, he was solid the last couple games. He was pretty good, but he is still sporadic in the pocket. He does make a bad decision here and there, which you expect out of a young quarterback. But
he's a rookie.
Yeah. If Zach Wilson does take this next step in this offense because, becomes something, I do think the Jets will be decent, maybe 7-8 wins. But right now I have them at bottom 3 in the AFC. They're the Jets.
Yeah. They did have a very good draft, though.
Yeah. I can't believe you have Cleveland at 14. I mean,
man.
Yeah. 14 in the NFC. I have Chicago.
This is where I have the Seahawks.
Seattle. Yeah. Seattle's bad. Very bad. I do think the Bears have the worst roster in football.
Really?
I think the Bears have the worst roster in football. Their offense is so bad. Actually, listen to me. Their offensive line might be the worst offensive line I've ever seen in my life. Tevin Jenkins is a good young tackle. He's mostly a run blocker, though. Cody Whitehair, he was injured a lot of last season. I'm not sure if he's coming back. I don't even know if he's on the team. I don't even know who else is on that line. Is it Jermaine Ifedi, their next best lineman? They lost James Daniels in free agency to the Steelers. They have Damon Montgomery in the backfield. He's good. They're losing Tariq Cohen again for the season. Justin Fields is obviously, struggled as a rookie, but again, his offensive line did him no favors. He has no weapons on offense, and the Bears did nothing to help him with that in the offseason. They draft Kyler Gordon with their first pick being in the second round because they traded their first round pick this past draft
for
Justin Fields last year in the 2021 draft. So Like they traded Khalil Mack to the Chargers.
Massive pickup for the Chargers, about the way.
They lose Akeem Hicks to the Buccaneers. They lose Eddie Goldman to the Chargers, I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure where he went. Don't quote me on that. But he is not he's not going to be in a Bears uniform next year. This roster is horrific. Their best corner is Jalen Johnson, who's good, but he's not going to win you games. This roster is terrible. They do bring in a new head coach in Matt Eberflus, who was a good assistant in Indianapolis, but man, this Bears roster is terrible.
A long overdue new head coach. By the way,
like Nagy's not terrible, but he is terrible. He is terrible. Yeah, the Bears, in my opinion, have the worst roster, top to bottom, in the NFL. I don't really think it's close. Maybe the Seahawks or the Texans compete.
It's definitely close.
Like the Bears have a bad team, very bad team. And you said you had the Seahawks here
At 14.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so 13 in the AFC.
This is where the New York Jets are for me.
Okay. So
around the same spot of where you're at.
You think the Jets are going to do better than the Browns?
If Zach Wilson takes the leap that everybody's expecting him to take, maybe, and Garrett Wilson can ball out as a rookie, Ahmad Gardner obviously would have to show up. I think they can make some big improvements from last year.
I think they'll be better, but still, they're not a great team.
They're not.
They still are in the same division as the Patriots, the Dolphins, and the Bills, and they have to play those teams 6 times. So
yeah,
who knows? Maybe they will be the next Bengals, but I
doubt it.
All right, I was freaking out about you having the Browns at 14, but I have him here at 13.
Yeah, and I mean, those could swap. I mean, when I was doing these, it was tit for tat, man.
The Browns are, like I said before, they have a good roster. They have a good roster. It's just a quarterback is a very big part of that roster, and Deshaun Watson is obviously a top 10 QB when he plays, but if he's gonna miss, he doesn't have a decision yet, right? Like they haven't given him a certain amount of suspension yet.
They're talking they're talking from 6 games to a year to it's all over the place.
If Calvin Ridley gets a full year for
gambling,
yeah, we didn't even talk about that with the Falcons. Freaking, they lost Calvin Ridley to suspension.
I forgot about that.
If Calvin Ridley gets a year for gambling, like Deshaun Watson may get multiple seasons.
Well, we've seen the NFL's past with suspensions too, so.
Yeah, they're all over the place. They don't really have a set system of what they're doing. They really don't know what they're doing with that. They're set, like, if we're saying 8 games, a full year, whatever. If they have Jacoby Brissett starting the whole year, I could see them trading for someone else.
Maybe Garoppolo.
That is a possibility, but they are paying Deshaun Watson $236 million guaranteed. Maybe they don't have the money for Garoppolo. He's getting paid upwards of 20. So, I don't know. With Jacoby Brissett expected to start the entire year, I do think the Browns finish as the 13th seed in the AFC. There's only so much you can do without a good quarterback. And Jacoby Brissett has shown he's not a capable starter in the NFL. The only question mark I do have about the Browns is their front 7, like I said earlier. They're probably going to be this year's Chargers, like how the Chargers were last year. The Chargers got ran all over last year. They were the dead last in rush defense last year. They had no type of rush defense at all. And it obviously showed with the offseason pickups that they made. They got Sebastian Joseph Day. We'll talk about them more when we get farther up. But they bolstered that run defense in the offseason, and the Browns are looking like the same thing. Clowney's back. I think Clowney did resign with the Browns.
He did.
He'll help that, but I mean, there's only so much.
He's on the back end of his career too, so
yeah, he's not great anymore. Clowney is a exceptional run defender.
He's not the Houston Texans Clowney.
Yeah. Garrett is is pass rush first. Owusu Komoro can only do so much as a same linebacker, but yeah, the Browns defense, they're probably going to get ran all over this year, and it's hard to win games when you can't stop the run, especially in the NFL.
Especially, and then you got a bad quarterback on top of that. So
yeah, so Browns is my 13. Did you said the Jets were in the spot?
Yes, that was the Jets. Yeah.
All right, 13 seed in the NFC.
I got the Bears right there, about the same spot where you got them at.
Yeah, these are the bottom of these conferences are pretty predictable with just the same teams. We're just flipping spots. How do you feel about you said the Bears? How do you feel about the Bears offseason? I know I kind of went really hard on the Bears earlier.
You were mostly right. I mean, it's just not looking very bright for the Bears.
It's a long rebuild ahead. Very long rebuild ahead.
Very long. But they do have they might have their answer at quarterback.
I think they do.
Yeah, I do too. I think Justin Fields will be good once you get him some help.
Yeah, but there's only so much Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet can do.
Right. You got to have some receivers in there somewhere.
Yeah.
The Bears some offensive line help.
The most important thing. That offensive line is horrific. I have the New York Giants in this spot. New York Giants. They bring in a whole new regime in the front office with Joe Shane replacing David Gettleman, who retired. They bring in Brian Dable from Buffalo, who was exceptional last year as the Bills' offensive coordinator and years before. He comes in as a new head coach, who is partly the reason why Josh Allen has been so good the past couple years. Helped, fix his, completely fix his throwing motion where he, just became better. The Giants, they did a lot. They had an exceptional draft, I thought, in the first round mainly, but
yeah,
they picked Thibodeau at 5, and then they got Evan Neal at 7. In my opinion,
good picks.
Those were the best 2 players of the draft, in my opinion, and they got them at 5 and 7. Exceptional value for New York right there. And yeah, they picked Wan'Dale Robinson in the 2nd round, it was a questionable pick. Jeez, I keep hitting my mic. Was an exceptional pick, not an exceptional pick, was a questionable pick in the 2nd round, saying they already have Kadarius Toney in that wide receiver room. But, Joe Shane said, why not have 2 of those gadgety type players in the offense?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do expect the Giants to be better. Like we've said this with every team, but
they still got a question mark at quarterback in my opinion.
Yeah, Daniel Jones is a huge question mark. They didn't pick up his 5th-year option, so this means he's the final year of his deal with New York.
I really expect him to be gone after this year.
Most likely, but if Dable can fix Daniel Jones, he might be back. But I do think Daniel Jones hasn't had any favors done in New York for him.
He hasn't.
His offensive line has been horrible.
He kind of hasn't done himself any favors either. So.
Yeah, he is bad at decision making. He fumbles the ball a lot. Yeah, he hasn't been great, but the Giants haven't done him any favors either, paying Nate Solder as much money as they did.
There's also the big question mark on Saquon Barkley as well. I mean,
yeah, can Saquon Barkley play a full season? I think Saquon Barkley would be great in that offense, considering Dable runs a pass-heavy offense. And running back, Saquon Barkley's an exceptional pass catcher out of the backfield. So he will most likely benefit from being in an offense. But can he stay healthy for a full season is
We will see.
the biggest question mark. Not much more to say to the Giants. The 12 seed in the AFC. You go ahead because you're going to be upset at mine.
The Pittsburgh Steelers.
The Steelers. Wow.
There's a lot of questions at quarterback for the Steelers for me. Kenny Pickett is he probably was the most NFL ready quarterback in the draft. I'm gonna say that.
He definitely was.
But I just don't know how quick it's going to translate if he is a starter, assuming he's a starter. And then I don't really see Trubisky being that much of a X factor if he's a starter.
I think Pickett, if he does start games for them, will be better than what Big Ben was for them the past couple of years, because Big Ben had his arm hasn't been
Big Ben,
ever since he hurt his elbow or whatever.
But there's gonna be the struggles obviously with Pickett as a rookie.
Yeah, he's a rookie. Obviously, he's probably not gonna have a Justin Herbert type of rookie year. But I do think the Steelers will be fine.
They did lose. They lost Juju. We'll see how much that's
not gonna hurt them at all. I don't think
we'll see. Them. I mean,
not to say Juju's bad, but he hasn't been on the field.
Survive his career in Kansas City.
I think the Steelers are way too well coached to be that bad, but I have them at 11, just the spot above. So
yeah, they're right there in that category.
They lost a lot. They lost Big Ben, which it's 5 years overdue. They lost.
This AFC is so loaded. I feel like they could finish. Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season.
Yeah.
I feel like they could still finish without 500 maybe or above, a little bit above, and still be at that 11-12 spot.
Yeah, the AFC is loaded. They lose Stephon Tuitt to retirement. They bring in Miles Jack, who is a very good pickup. Don't know why the Jaguars released him, but they bring in Miles Jack. We didn't even talk about that with the Jaguars. They released Miles Jack. They bring in Miles Jack. They still have a huge question mark at corner. I think Akella Witherspoon is their best cornerback right now. I mean, he wasn't bad last year, but it's not ideal to have him as your CB1. They bring in James Daniels from Chicago to help out that offensive line. They really helped out bolstered up that offensive line by bringing in James Daniels. They brought in Mason Cole, who isn't great, but he's someone who can play the center position. And I think the Steelers, I could definitely see them getting worse. I think
they take a slight step back from last year.
Yeah, but who knows? Maybe they win 13 games and
they do have Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin's just the greatest coach ever. I think it could go either way.
Yeah, it could. But I'm definitely leaning towards them taking a small step back.
All right, so my 12 seed, I have New England.
Wow.
The Patriots. Wow. I understand Bill Belichick, greatest coach to ever put on a headset, but it's not
Mac Jones was
he was good.
Great last
year. He was good, and even if he did peak, he's still going to be fine. But
did you see the picture of that dude?
Yeah, he looks so good. If they put the side by side of him at Alabama with the cigar in his mouth, and then with the new he's having that sweaty shirt, he looks great. But I don't know, man. The team's not great. They lost Hightower.
They kind of Bill reached on Cole Strange in the first round.
Yeah, but
I think not to bring free agents into this, but I think OBJ could be a solid fit there.
Yeah, they do need a number one receiver. They have like their receiver
They did
room
get
is
they did get Devontae Parker. I forgot about that.
yeah.
Not that he's really a one receiver, but
Yeah, even with Devontae Parker, their receiver room is just a bunch of like wide receiver 2s and wide receiver 3s. They don't have a number one receiver. I mean, they have Hunter Henry at tight end, but he's not a receiver, right?
Right.
They don't have that true number one receiver, and you can get away with that with Tom Brady at quarterback, but they don't have Tom Brady anymore. They have Mac Jones.
Yeah,
and
they have Mac.
When Mac Jones has a bunch of number 2 receivers around him, and not a guy who he can just count on to get separation, it's like the receivers he has are good. Like Devontae Parker's good. He's not very much of a route runner or separator. Kendrick Bourne's fine. Who else they have? Nelson Aguilar's he had a good season last year. Like they have a good receiver room. It's just they don't have that number one guy that
they don't have that.
Like,
yeah, they don't have that guy
that they can just count on to get them a first down. Like and you could get away with that. Like I said, with Tom Brady at quarterback, but they don't have Tom Brady anymore. So
yeah,
I don't know how much it's gonna help. And they
do still have Bill Belichick, so
yeah, who knows? But they lost J.C. Jackson to the Chargers. They lost Dante Hightower. I mean, the rest of their defense is okay. Like they have, I think their number one corner right now is Jonathan Jones, and I think he's a slot guy more than he is a boundary guy. So who knows? Yeah. They're like I said with the Steelers, they could win 13 games and nobody would be surprised.
Yeah.
But I do think they'll finish 12th in the AFC. Who is your 12th in the NFC?
The Giants.
New York, yeah, it's just pretty much the same.
Yeah, I've already pretty much covered everything I wanted to cover with New York when we was talking about them a second ago.
Yeah,
there's
for 11
Saquon concerns, there's the Daniel Jones concerns, and
yeah.
They drafted very well, but
yeah, they have a good draft and
have a lot of pieces they need still.
Yeah, the first round they had a pretty good draft, but as you go down,
yeah, but drafted very well. I'm talking about the 5 and 7 they got.
Yeah, just 5 and 7. Everything else was 11, I have Pittsburgh, like I said earlier, and we pretty much nailed it earlier with Pittsburgh. They could easily win 13 games. They could also easily win like 7. This roster's it's all right, but they do have a very good coach. They also they brought in Brian Flores in the offseason too. Forgot about that as like a defensive assistant or something. To help the defense out, which they have like an all right defensive player in T.J. Watt. He's all right. He might win Defensive Player of the Year or something. Who knows? Yeah, I think that defense will be fine. It's just the offense I have big question marks about. Can Chase Claypool become a number one receiver? Can Deontay Johnson still be good? Can Calvin Austin turn into a good slot guy?
Calvin Austin.
Be what Anthony Miller couldn't be. Anthony Miller is also on that team.
Anthony Miller is on that practice squad.
The practice squad. It counts.
Yeah. I jumped on you for your, but at 11 I got the Patriots.
11, yeah. I don't they're just a mid roster. They're just mid.
And they made the playoffs last year, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
They made the playoffs last year.
They got whooped, but they made the playoffs.
They did. But yeah, I think they just take kind of like the Steelers, just take a small step back. And if they add one receiver, maybe like OBJ. If they add an OBJ or Julio, maybe they could go up a little bit. But we'll see, man.
Yeah. I don't think I touched on my 12 in the NFC. I think I skipped 12. I have Atlanta. We already talked about Atlanta. Very bad roster.
Yeah.
Just top to bottom, very bad. I do expect Desmond Ridder to probably start a couple games.
They do have, like we said, they do have Marcus Mariota though.
Yeah, Marcus Mariota, but
Goda, yeah.
Like he is pretty much inevitably going to miss a couple games. So I do expect Desmond Ridder gets some play time. Hopefully in Arthur Smith's offense, he can play pretty well. Atlanta, not going to be very good.
Yeah.
11 in the NFC. I have Carolina at 11.
Well, let's just go ahead. I got Carolina too, so let's just go ahead and knock them both out.
Carolina is not great.
There's obvious. Yeah, they got Baker.
Even with the Baker trade, they're not great. This Panthers QB room might be the weirdest QB room I've ever seen.
You got Mayfield, you got Darnold, and you got Matt Corral.
Matt Corral, who had questions in college, like, can he, read the field? He had a very, I don't want to say easy, but RPO offense, or he led an RPO offense out there with Lane Kiffin. So he just quick decision making. There were question marks whether he could read an NFL defense or not.
And don't forget about the ankle injury.
Yeah, and he's coming off an ankle injury. Sam Darnold, he might be the worst starting quarterback in the entire league. He's probably not going to be a starter now, but Sam Darnold is a very bad quarterback.
Last year there was all the hype that Sam Darnold was. It was the Jets. Sam Darnold was legit.
I was one of those people. I was
too. And then it died down quick. Like it went downhill very fast.
They started the season hot. They were 3-0. Their defense was great. Their defense was pretty much carrying them.
And Darnold was playing great.
He was. He led the NFL in rushing touchdowns or something through the first 3 weeks. And then they proceeded to win 2 games the rest of the season.
It just went south fast.
Yeah, they traded for Gilmore. Obviously, he's on Indianapolis now. But that defense carried them the first 3 games, and then they just spiraled downhill. And they really didn't do much to make that team better. They drafted who did they draft in the first round?
And there's always the question:
Can
Christian McCaffrey stay healthy?
It's the same thing with Saquon. Can glass bones Christian McCaffrey stay healthy?
I was thinking of Christian McCaffrey when we was talking about Saquon earlier. I was like, can't wait to get to Christian McCaffrey because we have the same problem with him. I mean,
yeah. McCaffrey.
If McCaffrey can get through a whole season, he's a top 3 running back in the NFL.
Oh, definitely, especially with his pass catching ability. Okay. I used to think Matt Rule was just a horrible head coach, but he hasn't had a healthy team to work with. Like he had to deal with Cam Newton.
Yeah, that last year. He's back.
If Cam Newton's starting games for your NFL team, you're bad. I'm sorry, Cam Newton's not good anymore. He's just not good.
Former MVP Cam Newton.
Yeah, it's just terrible. He got beat out by Mac Jones as a rookie. Mac Jones learned knew the playbook better than Cam Newton did, even
before
with Cam
he even
Newton.
got there.
Yeah, even with Cam Newton having a year under his belt in that system.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah, he had to deal with Cam Newton, and through the first 3 games, I know it's only 3 games, but through the first 3 games, he had that team looking right. He made Sam Darnold look decent. McCaffrey was healthy. That team was good. It's just they got hurt. It sucked. So I don't think Matt Rule's bad. He's definitely on the hot seat now.
I'm curious to see how Baker fits there.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Baker's not bad in my opinion. He played last season with a torn labrum.
Yeah. I'm not really a fan of all the Baker hate. I don't think Baker's as bad as everybody makes him out to be.
He's not great.
I'm not saying he's great, but I don't think he's as bad as everybody makes him out to be.
Yeah, he's not terrible, but he is also has the most interceptions in the NFL since he's been in the league. So
he did end the Browns playoff drought. He
did. He's the only Browns quarterback that can say that in the last 40 years. So yeah, Baker's decent in my opinion. I think the Browns kind of did him a little dirty. But he also didn't really, help his case by, acting the way he did.
Yeah, there's rumors going around that he was immature and ruined team chemistry.
Really?
Yeah, you haven't heard that yet?
Really? Not
Baker
surprising.
Mayfield.
Not Baker Mayfield. Really?
And we just saw glimpses of this in college. I mean,
yeah, he's not the most team leadery player.
right.
He will let his emotions get the best of him. I will say that.
He's not Johnny Manziel. He's not on that level, but
yeah, he is. He does let his emotions get the best of him though.
Yeah.
It did run him out of Cleveland. 10 seed in the AFC. This is where it gets interesting.
Wait a minute, I forgot what about Robbie Anderson back before when the Baker Mayfield trades all the talks was getting started up, and he commented on that Instagram post or tweet or whatever and said no.
I mean, he's got to deal with it now because Baker Mayfield's
Yeah, but like what? I wonder how that's going to go over with.
I mean, it's Robbie Anderson. It's not like
they actually asked him about this on a podcast he was on, and he said something about he just wanted to defend his quarterback or something. I don't really know what he was trying to. I think he was just trying to defend his actions on that comment.
Right. But also,
Robbie Anderson doesn't have a lot of say so in Carolina. I wouldn't think.
It's Robbie Anderson. Like, he's not like.
He's not even the best receiver on his team. I mean.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to 10 in the AFC. This is where it gets really, really interesting.
This is where it gets good.
Okay, who do you have?
I have the Miami Dolphins.
Okay.
They obviously added Tyreek.
Mm-hmm.
Tua is still a question mark, in my opinion. Even though Tyreek Hill said he'd rather have Tua over Mahomes.
I think he said he'd rather have Tua. Like, Tua's more accurate than Mahomes.
Yeah, but he did say he would rather have Tua's accuracy over Mahomes' deep ball.
I don't know. Can Tua throw a no-look pass?
Yeah, right. I mean, I don't know. That was like a controversial take for me. So when Tyreek said that.
Yeah, Miami had a tremendous offseason. They brought in Teron Armstead to help that offensive line. They obviously trade for Tyreek Hill. They trade the absolute farm, like all of their draft picks for Tyreek Hill.
And paid him nicely.
Yeah, gave him the contract he deserved. But the Chiefs didn't feel like if they had Patrick Mahomes, they didn't need to really pay a receiver because they're confident in, Mahomes being good enough to carry them without a receiver like Tyreek Hill.
Which is fair.
Yeah, it's fair. They bring in Tyreek Hill. They bring in Armstead. They draft Channing Tindall in the.
They do have Jalen Waddle still too.
Third round. They do have Jalen Waddle. I think Jalen Waddle. They also bring in Mike McDaniel at head coach.
Yeah, big head coach hire.
Yeah.
They say Mike McDaniel plans to use Tyreek Hill as kind of that Debo role.
Yeah, he was.
So that could be interesting.
Very good play caller. And we've seen that with how he used Debo. Debo literally played every position last year. They had even Trent Williams was like motioning across the line and stuff. It was a cool offense to watch. Obviously they get an NFC Championship bid. Mike McDaniel, super good play caller. I think he'll be a good coach with this Miami team. I do think Miami will be better. I have them better. But yeah, Miami had a good offseason. Speaking of good off seasons, I have Vegas right here.
Wow.
Yeah, Vegas, like the AFC is stacked. Like I know they obviously had a very good offseason. They trade for Devontae Adams. They signed Chandler Jones. They hired Josh McDaniels as a head coach. We obviously know his head coaching history. Like it didn't go so well with Denver. But I do think he'll be a good head coach. He was a great play caller for New England. So I do think he'll be a good head coach, especially with, the team he has now. He's got Max Crosby and Chandler Jones off the edge. The secondary is a question mark for that team. They signed Jayon Brown. They still have Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller, Derek
Chandler
Carr.
Jones.
Yeah, they signed Chandler Jones. They still have Derek Carr, Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, a decent offensive line.
They're really loaded on offense.
Yeah, their offense is great. It's just the defense I have question marks about. That's why I only have them at 10.
Have them that low.
Like, I do think they'll win a decent amount of games. I do think they can go win like 10 games, but it'll just be like not enough for the playoffs. Like, I have a 3-way tie for the 8 seed. All 8, 9, and 10 all win 10 games and miss the playoffs. For me.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
It just happened to be Vegas. Even with the loaded AFC, I think teams are better than Vegas right now. All right, 10 for the NFC.
I have the Minnesota Vikings.
Ooh. I think people are sleeping on the Vikings. But go ahead.
I really don't know why I have them there. I mean, I just see other teams as being able to be. It's kind of a 3-way tie like that, like you said in the AFC. That's my NFC and my AFC too, really. I kind of got 3 teams right there in the same boat.
So you think Washington is better?
I got them one spot ahead.
Wow. Okay. Mike Zimmer gone, obviously. Who did they draft? I forget who they drafted. Lions traded up with the Vikings to take Jameson Williams, and
That's right.
And then Minnesota traded back at the back end of the first round. They take Lewis Seen, the safety out of Georgia, with the 32nd pick, which is good. They definitely needed secondary help. They also take Andrew Booth, Ed Ingram, Brian Asamoah. They did an okay draft. I just think they'll be better. Like, they have a good offense with Dalvin Cook. Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. I don't care what anybody says. Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback.
He is. They have Adam Thielen. I could see them finishing. I could see them finishing high as 9 or 8, but I just got them at 10, man.
Yeah, it's the same thing with the Raiders. Like, this is the NFL stacked, man.
Yeah, it's
the NFL stacked, and any team can finish pretty much anywhere.
Yeah, and it all depends. Injuries are obviously a big thing. I mean, it depends on what.
Yeah, I have Washington at 10. They obviously bring in Carson Wentz from Indianapolis.
I think Carson Wentz can be okay for them. I really don't think he's the answer. Unless he can.
I think if Carson Wentz isn't good this year, I think this is his last year as a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Oh, 100%.
Like, he's probably either getting bought out or traded again if he's not good.
He's not on a 1-year deal, ain't he?
I think
Terry.
I think he has another year left on his deal.
They paid Terry. Chase Young can be. If Chase Young stays healthy, Chase Young can be, I think, a defensive player of the year candidate.
That is fair. But also, I think he could be a trade candidate next year if he doesn't produce. Because
Chase Young?
Yeah. If he doesn't put up like 12 sacks or something like that. He played pretty bad last year before he got hurt. As a rookie, he was great. He obviously won Defensive Rookie of the Year. But last year he wasn't great before he went down with injury. And then I do think if he doesn't play well next year, he's gonna be up for a rookie extension after next year. And he's gonna win a lot of money.
Right.
And if he doesn't play well, I do think Washington could trade him. That's just my opinion. Who knows? Maybe he have a good season, and this isn't worth talking about in a year. But I do think teams are scared to pay those players who are like really good, but like want max money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's with like the Jared Goff contract, the Carson Wentz contract, like those type of contracts, like Jimmy Garoppolo contract when he got it. Like they obviously don't live up to their contract, but like the teams at the time are like thinking like, what are we gonna do? Lose him? Like we gotta pay him. And Chase Young is good, but if he doesn't have a bounce back season, I do think he could get traded.
Not our Titans. They ain't scared to lose him. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But
yeah, man, oh man. Yeah, I have Washington at 10. They're not a great team. Their defense is okay. Their offense obviously has a lot of question marks with Carson Wentz under center. Yeah,
like
Washington.
I got them at 9. So I mean, they're right there.
Just mid. They're just always mid. Not worth talking about. All right, 9 seed in the AFC. Who do you got?
The Colts.
I have the Colts too at 9.
Yeah. I mean,
top to bottom, I think the Colts are one of the most well-rounded teams in the league.
Mean, this obviously means that the Titans still win the AFC South, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I think Matt Ryan probably can bring more to the offense than Carson Wentz. I just think I don't see them making the playoffs.
I think they could. This is obviously the same thing with Vegas.
This is part of my three-way tie for the. I think I have a dogfight for the 7 seed. Well, who's your 9 in the NFC? I already told you mine. It was the Washington, obviously.
I have Philly.
You have Philly. Wow.
I don't think Jalen Hurts is that good.
This is definitely just like Carson Wentz. This is definitely Jalen Hurts' make or break year.
Jalen Hurts is not a great NFL quarterback, in my opinion. He's a good runner.
Jalen Hurts can't put up numbers with what he's got now. He's not putting up numbers.
Yeah, he's a good runner. I do think that Philly has done a good job of putting things around him that'll put him in a good position to succeed with trading for AJ Brown, obviously. They have Devontae Smith, who they drafted last year. Quez Watkins. Zach Pascal's good depth. They have Dallas Goedert at tight end. They have a great offensive line, a very great pass blocking offensive line. They obviously showed they're good at run blocking too. Last year they finished with the number 1 ranked rushing offense. They have Miles Sanders in the backfield if he can stay healthy. Kenny Gainwell in the backfield as well. They also bolstered up their defense. I'm only saying good things about the Eagles right now, but I think Jalen Hurts will be the reason why they don't make the playoffs. I just don't think he's good at reading an NFL defense. He checks down a lot. He has a bad habit of running out of clean pockets. Like he'll have a clean pocket and he'll just roll out for no reason and just collapse the pocket.
Yeah.
He doesn't throw over the middle, and on games where he has to throw over 30 times, he's not very efficient. So who knows? Maybe he takes this big step up this year and proves he's a good NFL quarterback. But right now, from what I've seen of Jalen Hurts, I don't think he's a good NFL quarterback. But the rest of the team is good, in my opinion. I do think this is a good roster. But I think this all relies on whether Jalen Hurts is good or not.
Well, go ahead and give me your 8 for the AFC, since I'm going to hate it so much.
Denver.
Wow.
I
don't hate that, actually.
I know Russ is just your guy.
I mean, I don't know. It's that AFC is just the AFC West, especially, is just loaded.
Yeah, it's just hard. It's hard to pick. It's hard to pick a favorite in that division. Like every team is just so good. And it was hard for me to not put the Broncos in the playoffs. Like they're a good team. They obviously traded for a top 10 quarterback in Russell Wilson, and they have a good offense. They brought back Melvin Gordon. They have Javonte Williams, who I think is going to be a stud. Like Javonte Williams is so good.
I think that the Raiders and the Broncos are in real competition for that last spot in the AFC West.
So you think the Chiefs are marginally better than those two teams?
I think the Chiefs still win that division.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, you still got Mahomes. You still got Kelsey.
Yeah, Mahomes is obviously the big one. Next up, Kelsey, Andy Reid. But really, like
the defense,
I don't.
The defense did get the defense did get worse.
With obviously losing Tyrann Mathieu is huge. That's why I don't have them as high as most people would, because I think losing Tyrann Mathieu, like the heartbeat of that defense is so huge. It's really huge.
Yeah.
And they didn't bring back Melvin Ingram, who helped that defense a lot once they traded for him last season. But yeah, I do think.
But I do think like just like with the Broncos and the Raiders, I think the Chargers and the Chiefs are right there for the 1 seed of the AFC West.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but it's just it's hard to not put these teams in the playoffs because they're good enough to make the playoffs. It's just there's too many good teams.
there's not enough playoff spots.
Yeah, who do you have at 8 in the AFC?
The Raiders.
I don't disagree with that. I do think the Raiders can be really good.
They definitely have the potential to be.
Yeah, if Derek Carr decides he wants to throw,
like we said, AFC's just loaded, man.
It is. If Derek Carr decides he wants to throw for more than 10 yards at a time, and throw the ball deep downfield, which Devontae Adams is an exceptional deep threat receiver, this offense can be great. I do think the Raiders can be good, but I have them at the 10th spot, which looks bad, but I said I have a 3-way tie at 8, 9, and 10.
You were going to hate my 8 seed for the NFC. I got the 49ers right there.
Okay, I hate it. I hate it. Really?
Especially if Trey Lance is playing.
Wow, you don't think Trey Lance is that guy, obviously.
I think Trey Lance is good. I think Trey Lance can be great, but I just don't know. I don't feel like we've seen enough of Trey Lance. You know what I mean?
But that roster's good. Like, Debo's obviously coming back.
That roster is, well, if Debo don't hold out.
He could hold out, but
it's like I did factor that in a little bit. Debo maybe holding out.
Man, that's low.
It is low, but
there's not much to say about the 49ers. I just do think they're a better team than the 8 seed in the NFC. Garoppolo's probably, his days in San Fran are over, most likely. They still have Debo. They still have Ayuk. They lose Raheem Mostert to Miami. They still have Nick Bosa. And the 49ers being that low is just crazy. All right. You probably think the same thing with who I have at 8, but I have New Orleans at missing the playoffs at 8.
I had them at 7.
Just barely sneaking in. Yeah.
Barely sneaking in.
I don't think losing Sean Payton is going to be that much.
I don't need
a loss because, like,
who did they drafted? They drafted Chris Olave.
Olave at 11. Yeah, they bolstered up that wide receiver room by drafting Chris Olave. They're bringing back Michael Thomas after missing him for a year and a half. Jameis Winston's coming back. Who knows? Is Alvin Kamara playing?
I heard he's going to get about 6 games.
Miss about 6 games.
And that goes back to the Calvin Ridley thing. Calvin Ridley gets a whole year for gambling, and Alvin Kamara beats somebody up in Las Vegas
within an inch of his life. Beats somebody within an inch of their life, and he's like 6 weeks. It's just 6 weeks.
I heard 6 weeks, or 6 games, but that's just. I don't think they've officially come down with anything yet. So that's just rumor,
Yeah, who knows if Kamara even plays another game?
Yeah, that obviously matters a lot.
Yeah. Even then, the Saints.
I will say the 49ers and Saints could be flopped. I mean.
Yeah, the Saints are a good team. They're going to have a good defense. Dennis Allen comes in at head coach.
They had a good defense last year, and they added to that. So.
Yeah, they obviously bring in Tyrann Mathieu in the offseason. They still have Lattimore. they lose Marcus Williams and Teron Armstead. Those are big losses.
Yeah.
But I do think this team will be fine. I don't see them making the playoffs, but I do think this team will be okay. It's just
the main question for
NFL's
me is which Jameis Winston are they going to get?
probably a good one because they still have the same offensive coordinator.
Yeah,
since,
as long as you don't get 30 for 30 Jameis Winston, I think you're all right.
Yeah, he's had LASIK. He's been doing well in the offseason. He's still under the same offense he's been the past 2 seasons. So I think Jameis Winston will be okay, good enough. But it all depends on the weapons around him. Will Michael Thomas play a full healthy season?
That matters too. Michael Thomas. If Michael Thomas is healthy, that changes that offense a lot, like drastically.
Yeah. Also adding Chris Olave. I think Chris Olave is going to be really good. He's a silky route runner. He's a good run after catch guy. I think
he could be a day one contributor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the Saints are good. I'm saying only good things about the Saints, but it's just I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, unfortunately. All right, now an hour in, we're moving into our playoff teams. Who do you have as the 7th seed? Did you already say?
No. I have the Broncos here. Sneaking in.
Denver Broncos.
But like I told you, I have
for the first time since 2015. 3-way tie at 7.
Yeah, or not a tie, but a dogfight. It may even be a tie. I don't know. It's definitely close.
Yeah.
I feel like the Broncos, Raiders, and Colts are right there, all right there.
Yeah, they're all pretty much.
And you maybe could argue the Patriots are right there too.
You could, even people could argue Browns, Steelers, this AFC
Dolphins.
AFC is so stacked. I know we hammered on this a lot, but the AFC is just so loaded. It's hard for it. It's impossible for every team to make it. It's just it's crazy. I have Miami right here. Miami making the playoffs at 7. Yeah, we've pretty much hammered on both of those 2 teams already.
Yeah.
Both teams had really good off seasons. Just not good enough. You said who did you have at 7?
The Saints in the NFC.
I have Arizona. I think Arizona, they're gonna miss DeAndre Hopkins for 8 games, because of he got suspended. I do think.
I forgot about that. I did forget about that.
Yeah, DeAndre Hopkins is, suspended. That's why I did factor that in. But I easily could see the Cardinals losing or having a losing record, because I don't think the Cardinals are great, because they lose Chandler Jones.
They're going to be missing.
Kyler wants to be paid like a top quarterback, which he's shown he's done the same thing that Russell Wilson's done the past half decade. He balls out the first 6 weeks, and then the last 10 he's non-existent. He's just not.
If you watched him play against the Rams last year in the playoffs,
I think teams have figured him out. I know it's weird to say, but teams are letting him are giving him the checkdowns, and since he's so short, he doesn't always look for the checkdowns. He can't always see them. And I know that's weird to say, but it's true. He's just too short to see his checkdowns sometimes. So teams give him that and guard the deep ball. So when Kyler throws a deep ball, it's guarded now. So I do think teams have figured Kyler out now. Kyler plays a very exhausting brand of football. Just a lot of running around, and it's hard to do that for 17 games. Kyler's just like Marcus Mariota's probably going to miss a couple games, considering his style of play. I easily could put the Cardinals way lower, but I have them at 7. That's just how their schedule worked out. I have them at 7. All right, the 6th seed in the AFC. Who do you got?
Baltimore Ravens.
That's fair.
If Lamar stays healthy, he's probably a top 10 quarterback in the NFL.
I think he most definitely is. People forget he won an MVP award.
Some people want to argue top 5, but I don't see that.
I don't know about top 5.
Yeah, but
I think the Ravens could be really good this year.
the Ravens definitely have the potential to be really good. Yeah, that's who I got. That's where I got him. I got him at the 6th seed.
I forgot to mention this about the Cardinals, but since we're on the Ravens and maybe think of it, they trade Marquise Brown to the Cardinals.
That is one thing that is concerning is Lamar has no receivers now. So
yeah, he has Bateman. He does have
he does have Bateman.
Mark Andrews, obviously a great tight end.
But he's kind of right there. He's kind of right there with Mac Jones. You don't have a number 1.
Yeah, he doesn't. He has Mark Andrews. I think.
And there's obviously been the rumors of Antonio Brown to Baltimore, but
yeah, I think Antonio Brown's done in the NFL.
Yeah, I think Antonio Brown's pretty much done. Maybe
the Ravens.
Maybe OBJ goes to Baltimore. I don't know.
Yeah, but the Ravens also had a stellar draft. They draft Linderbaum in the first round.
Great pick.
Very great value for Linderbaum. Helped bolster up their offensive line after losing Bozeman. They picked David Ajabo in the 2nd round. Like, I was so happy when they picked him because, it wasn't – it sucks to see somebody drop in the draft because of a pro day injury, which is a freak pro day injury.
Yeah, but that was brutal. Don't forget about Kyle Hamilton.
Oh yeah, they draft Kyle Hamilton too, their first pick. This is such a Ravens player. If you think about it, it's a really good Ravens type player. The Linderbaum, they draft David Ajabo in the 2nd round, and they got a lot of good value in the later rounds with I think Jalen Armour Davis from Alabama. He's a Ravens type player too. Yeah, I think the Ravens had a great offseason. I think the Ravens are going to be good. But for my 6th seed, I have Kansas City.
Wow.
At 6. Yeah, it's just there's a lot of good teams. We say this about every team. Like, there's just a lot of good teams.
Kansas City at 6?
That's where they have been a fall. Yeah, I have them at 6. I don't think their defense is that great. Their offense is obviously good, even with the Tyreek Hill loss. They have Mahomes, top 2 quarterback. They have Kelsey, top 2 tight end. And they have Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy calling plays. So they're going to be good on offense. It's just the defense I have questions about.
Yeah, it's really a matter of how much can that offense make up for that defense.
Yeah, it's just they're going to be have to outscore teams pretty much every game, and
they've been doing that though.
Yeah, but especially after losing Tyrann Mathieu, that team has a lot of concerns. 6th seed for the NFC.
I have the Philadelphia Eagles. You're not
Philly.
You're not very high on Jalen Hurts, but I don't know something. I've just always been a Jalen Hurts fan. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but this goes back to college. I was always a big Jalen Hurts guy in college. Especially
he was great in college.
He gained my respect when he got benched and stayed, and did it all pretty much did it all the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't quit on his team. But
then he quit on his team a year later.
Well, that was different
Oklahoma.
though. He did graduate and transfer, so it was. Anyway,
yeah.
they put a lot of pieces around him, and I feel like he can be better. I don't know that he's great still, but I do feel like he can be better, and I got him at 6.
Yeah, it's just. I don't think Jalen Hurts is good.
And if Jalen Hurts is not good, then you're probably going to have the 49ers in there then.
Yeah. You can easily switch 49ers and the Eagles. Yeah, I understand why you have Philly there. They have a good overall team. They draft Jordan Davis. They drafted Kobe Dean as a steal in the later rounds. Who knows if he'll even play this year with his injury concerns. But, it's a good team. It's just I think
it all hinges on Jalen Hurts.
It all hinges on Jalen Hurts. I think he's the
I got
reason they will
confidence.
either be bad.
Jalen
He's
Hurts.
the reason they will either be bad or good. I have Minnesota at 6. I know I was like, I think you're sleeping on Minnesota, and I only have them at 6. But I think Minnesota's a playoff team. I'm not gonna put my life on it and say it's a lock, but I do think they're a playoff team. I think I touched on it earlier when you mentioned where you had Minnesota. Their offense is great. I do think they have a really good offense. I think obviously Justin Jefferson and Allen Thielen is good, but I do think KJ Osborne as a third wide receiver is super underrated. He was good last year. And the touches he got. It's just it always relies on the defense with Minnesota.
Yeah.
They were like the worst. They had the worst luck in the NFL last year. They were just losing close game after close game. They were the Nebraska of the NFL last year, pretty much. Just losing close game after close game. Every game was close. Whether they were winning or losing, it was just all of it was close. They ended up giving the Lions their first win. That's one of the worst NFL games I've ever seen. That game right there.
Yeah, that was brutal.
But I do think under a new regime, like another new GM and their new head coach, I'm blanking on their names right now, but I do think they can be better than what they've been past couple seasons. I don't know if they'll be back to their Case Keenum days where they win 13 games, but I do think they'll be good. I do think they're a playoff team.
That's understandable.
5 seed in the AFC is where I have Baltimore. It's just that they had a great offseason, like we touched on earlier. I did say they were going to be really good, but having them as a 5 seed, I think is a great thing to say for any AFC team. Being a 5 seed in the AFC is a good accomplishment considering how many good teams are in that conference.
Yeah.
Who do you have as the 5 seed?
I have the Chargers.
Chargers at 5. Chargers
I think Justin Herbert takes a massive leap this year. I mean, not that he really has
much more to go.
much more to go, but I think he really gets over the hump. I really expected that last year, and he didn't really do as much as I thought he would last year.
He was great last year.
He was great last year.
I don't think Herbert was bad.
I had Justin Herbert as an MVP candidate last year.
I remember you saying
before
that.
The season started. Like he was my dark horse for the MVP, and he didn't play that good. And
he was good.
He
was a good quarterback last year. He was a top 10 quarterback last year.
I expect him to take that lead this year.
Yeah.
I feel like his receivers are really slept on.
Yeah, he has good receivers. They paid Mike Williams in the offseason, which was, I don't know if I would have done it, but, if they want to keep Mike Williams, they have to pay him Christian Kirk money.
Yeah. And so there's Keenan Allen still. I mean.
Yeah, Keenan Allen.
They added Khalil Mack and J.C. Jackson and
to bolster the defense up, which is what they needed. Yeah. And they drafted Zion Johnson in the first round out of Boston College to bolster up that offensive line to play guard. Or he does have tackle flexibility too, whether if they're losing Bulaga. But yeah, the Chargers had a great offseason. I think they're a playoff lock, to be honest.
Yeah, I do too.
Barring injury, I think they're a playoff lock. 5 seed in the NFC. Who you got?
This is where I had Carolina. I mean, not Carolina, Arizona, the Cardinals.
I was about to say Carolina.
I don't know why I said Carolina. I saw Cardinals, and I guess I tried to read Cardinals before I read Arizona.
I was about to end the podcast right here if you had Carolina at 5.
No, I have Arizona there.
My goodness.
But like I said, I did the 8-game suspension for DeAndre Hopkins did slip my mind.
Yeah, it almost did for me too.
So
it will hurt.
I'll leave them there for now, just because I already got my standings put together and all that. But
I think
I
the
don't know.
Cardinals. I think the Cardinals have the widest range out of any team. Like for where they're finished, I think they could easily be a top 4 seed. I think they could easily be, a 10 or 11. You know,
Yeah,
like
they got to have somebody to step up while DeAndre's out.
yeah, and that could be Marquise Brown. Could be the OU connection.
It could be. We
It
shall.
could be Zach Ertz. It could be anybody.
They definitely have the weapons, but
Yeah, it's just will
but
Cliff Kingsbury be a good
and
head coach? Will Kyler Murray,
hold out. Will Kyler Murray hold out?
will he even play? Will he play well if he does play? Who knows?
Yeah.
I have San Francisco right here. I think San Francisco is a good team. They do play in a stacked NFC West. But I do think San Fran is a really good football team. I think Trey Lance will be good. I think Kyle Shanahan's going to have a field day with Trey Lance at QB this season. I think he's going to, be good. I think that offense is going to, take the next step with Trey Lance because there's so much you can do with Trey Lance rather than what you could do with Jimmy G. Jimmy G's good enough, but with Trey Lance, man, he's such a good runner. He has a rocket arm.
Trey Lance brings something completely different to that offense than
a completely new element to that offense. And
I wouldn't expect Jimmy Garoppolo to be there the whole season.
I don't think he's going to play at all for them.
Well, I wouldn't expect him to be on that team. I would expect a trade sometime.
Yeah. Who knows? I do think he'll be on the team next season, but I don't think he'll play. I think Trey Lance is going to be the starter next year. But yeah, like with Shanahan play calling, I do think 49ers will be really good on offenses and even on defense. They've always been a good defensive club. All right, 4 seed. We both have Tennessee right here.
Yeah, the Titans right here.
We have them winning the division. The Titans had a rough offseason, a very rough offseason. They get rid of AJ Brown.
But I guess it had to happen.
For Traylon Burks, essentially.
We couldn't pay AJ the $100 million he wanted. I mean,
yeah, we basically picked Tannehill over AJ Brown, basically, because we couldn't pay both.
Well, we couldn't get rid of Tannehill because nobody wanted to take Tannehill.
Yeah. So we trade AJ Brown to the Eagles for Traylon Burks. I do think Traylon Burks is basically a clone of AJ Brown, like that type of player.
There was some concerns about, I don't know if you saw it or not, at training camp.
His asthma.
Yeah, he had to have an inhaler. He actually, the first day, he actually walked out of practice and had to quit practicing.
Yeah, I don't think it's that big of a deal because it is a rookie getting used to NFL practices. Yeah, NFL training, NFL practices, and it's blistering Nashville heat. And he has asthma. I don't see it as a big deal. Because he played in Arkansas, and that's not much of a different.
Yeah, it's the same way pretty much.
Yeah, so I don't think it'll be that much different. I think Traylon Burks will be fine, and we also traded for Robert. Gave up nothing for Robert Woods. I think he's a good football player. He is obviously coming off that ACL. See how he'll fare with that. And, the offense, but the focal point obviously is going to be Derrick Henry.
Can't be much worse than Julio. So.
Yeah, Julio played
all
4 games.
Julio.
Yeah, that was a train wreck. What Julio was. It's pretty. Titans are. I still think they're a good football team. We still have Vrabel at the helm. I still think we're going to be a good football team. Caleb Farley's coming back. I'm excited about that. There's not much to say about it.
Really excited. I don't think he's going to play this year, but Malik Willis, man.
Who knows? Who knows what'll happen? Maybe Tannehill sucks, and then we.
Well, Tannehill has a track record of being good in the regular season and terrible in the postseason. So
yeah, we know all too well about that.
All too well.
4 seed NFC. Who do you got?
I have the Dallas Cowboys. I think they win. I think they win their division easily.
Yeah.
They have.
I think it's
probably,
theirs to lose.
Oh yeah, it definitely is. There's really not any competition. Maybe the Eagles.
Definitely the Eagles is second, but
I'm excited to see CeeDee Lamb as the number one, the obvious number one. Now that Amari Cooper's gone, Dak Prescott's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. When healthy, of course. They obviously have the defense. The defense is a lot better. Micah Parsons should take a leap, unless he has the sophomore struggles. I mean,
he could. He's probably not going to be as good as he was last year. Who knows? Maybe
he don't really have to be, though. I mean, I don't feel like he has to be.
Yeah, maybe he is better and becomes the best defensive player in the league.
Trayvon Diggs takes a leap, a little bit more of a leap anyways.
Yeah, Trayvon Diggs is. I don't think he's that good.
It's.
He's obviously a good ball hawk player because, he's good at getting into your receptions, but it's like, yeah, it's hard for me to say that Trayvon Diggs is bad because he did let up a lot of yards. He let up over 1,000 receiving yards over the season, but he would be so much better if he had a number one corner across from him. That's why I thought the Dallas Cowboys were going to get Gilmore. He ended up going to the Colts, obviously, but I thought that Dallas was going to pick up Gilmore and, let just Trayvon Diggs be that ball-hawking corner across from Gilmore. Gilmore had that type of corner with J.C. Jackson when they were in New England, and it worked out well. They won a Super Bowl. But I thought Dallas was going to pick up Gilmore and have Trayvon Diggs aside on the other boundary and just let Trayvon get picks and then let Gilmore be on the other side and just locking everyone up. But they obviously they didn't do that.
There's also talks that, going back to the offensive side of the ball in Dallas, that Tony Pollard, they were moving him, or not moving him, but getting him some snaps at the slot.
I think that'll be great.
Yeah.
Pollard is so great with the football in his hands.
If Zeke can stay healthy and you have Pollard in the slot, it's
still gonna be good offense without they'd lose Cedric Wilson. Dolphins paid him a lot of money. Going back to the Christian Kirk contract, the Dolphins paid him a lot of money.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys gonna be pretty good as long as they don't run QB draw with 10 seconds left or nothing like that. So
yeah, the Cowboys will be good. I have Green Bay here at 4. Obviously their offense is going to take a step back without Devontae Adams. I mean, he's the best receiver in the league.
I'm really excited to see what Christian Watson can do.
He's going to be good. He's 6'4", and he runs
he's big.
He runs a sub 4.4. Like he's going to be good if he can stay healthy. But other than that, it's pretty dicey at receiver.
I have seen OBJ's name tied to the Packers as well.
Yeah. If the Packers can add him, that would just make them even better. I think the Packers are good. I think Jair Alexander is, obviously Jalen Ramsey's the best corner in the league, but you could say Jalen Ramsey's 1A and Jair Alexander's 1B. Their defense is good. I think
rumor has it that there's some league executives that say Jalen Ramsey has taken a step back.
Step back? I mean, we'll talk about that when we get to the Rams.
Yeah.
But I think the Packers are good. They're obviously, as long as Aaron Rodgers plays for them, I think they're a playoff lock.
Yeah.
They've been super good with the LaFleur-Rodgers connection. They've won no less 13 games every season. The playoff success obviously hasn't been there, but regular season, I do think the Packers can be a 4 seed, probably win around 12 games.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to the top 3 seeds in each conference. I have the Chargers at the 3.
I could see that.
I have them winning the AFC West. I think the Chargers
Yeah.
are super good. They have Herbert.
They are really good.
Herbert's a great quarterback. They still have Eckler, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. They brought in Gerald Everett to play tight end. They have a decent offensive line. They still have Brandon Staley at head coach. Their defense got way better with Mack, J.C. Jackson, Derwin James. Hopefully he could play a full healthy season. They brought in Sebastian Joseph Day from the Rams, Super Bowl champion, to help with that run defense. I think the Chargers, pretty much everybody says this about the Chargers every year. Oh, the Chargers sleeper, dark horse team. But I do think the Chargers are that good. With Brandon Staley at the helm, that defense is going to be probably a top 10 defense in the entire league. And I do think the Chargers win the West and finish top 3.
I really think the AFC West, the winner of the AFC West comes down to the head-to-head matchups between the Chiefs and the Chargers.
Right.
I could very well see the Chargers winning that division though. But right now I still got the Chiefs winning that division.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that, but I think the Chargers are going to be really good. Who do you have? You have the Chiefs at 3?
No, I have the Bengals at 3.
The Bengals at 3.
I have them win that division, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And
the Bengals did a lot in the offseason.
They did.
I love the Daxon Hill pick. I'm going to say it right now. I love the Dax Hill pick in the first round. I think that's their eventual Jesse Bates replacement because I don't think they're really too high on paying him as much as he wants. Like that Minka Fitzpatrick money. I don't think they're really down to pay him that money, which is, I guess, understandable when you can pick up somebody like Dax Hill who can play pretty much anywhere on the secondary. He can play free safety, strong safety, slot corner. He can even play boundary corner if you wanted him to. He's that flexible. I love Dax Hill. I loved that pick. I'm surprised he fell to 30 they picked him at. I love that pick for Cincy. They bolstered up that O-line. They brought in Lyle Collins.
They needed that O-line. That O-line cost them a Super Bowl last year.
It did. They win the Super Bowl if their O-line holds up for a second longer.
On that last play, Jamar Chase was wide open.
Yes, he was. They bolster up that O-line. They bring in Alex Kappa, Lyle Collins. They bolster up the defense with Dax Hill. It's Joe Burrow is probably going to be better. He could take a step back, but it's hard to top all those franchise records he broke last season for Cincy. He was super great down the stretch. That 525-yard game he had, he was so good last year. I think he's become a little bit overrated. People saying he's
just a little bit.
Top 5 quarterback is a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah, that's a stretch.
I do think the Bengals are super good. It's pretty much covered everything about the Bengals. They're super good. Who do you have as your 3 in the NFC?
I have the Packers there.
Yeah, it's fair.
We pretty much covered the Packers. I mean,
all right, I'm ready.
They got Aaron Rodgers. I mean, that's if they add OBJ or somebody like that for Aaron Rodgers to throw to, maybe, then that's just going more insurance for top 3 seed in the NFC. Top 4 guaranteed if they add one of them.
First round exit never looked so good. All right, 2 seeds, top 2 seeds in each conference. I have Cincy as the 2 seed in the AFC.
I got Kansas City here.
That's fair. I think you could probably switch Cincy and Kansas City for me. I could probably see the Ravens winning that division, and
that's very possible. I mean, the Ravens and Bengals will be right there at the top of that division.
I think the Ravens. I think the Ravens are really, really good. The Ravens. I've said this about a lot of AFC teams. I've said that about the Bengals, the Chargers.
Yeah. But it's true.
I think the Ravens might be the second best team in the AFC. Like
It could be.
they went 8-3 with such a beat up team last season. I know they lost out after going 8-3, but
Yeah.
they were like good of one seed at the
They had
that
they
point.
had Le'Veon Bell at running back at one point.
Dark days in Baltimore. But they were still 8-3. Like they were still the one seed in the AFC with all that happening. And you come back with a fully healthy Lamar. Who's their
Lamar's
running?
also
J.K.
one of those
Dobbins.
Lamar's also one of those that wants paid, so you have to keep an eye on that too. I mean,
Who knows? I would pay him. That's just me.
did you see he changed his
Twitter header. I want money to
bio?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
not bio, header, whatever. Instagram
Yeah,
profile pic.
I saw that. I would pay Lamar. That's just me. I think the Ravens.
Hold up is on that.
I think the Ravens are going to be really good. They're a fully healthy team. All their like Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Peters were both out for a significant amount of time last season.
Oh yeah.
They did lose Sean Elliott to the Lions, but they bring in Kyle Hamilton. They bring in Linderbaum to help that offensive line. David Ajabo is going to be, pretty much redshirted this year. He's going to be out.
Yeah.
But I think the Ravens are going to be really good this year, and I could easily see them being a top 3 seed easily. But I have them at 5.
I have them at 6. But yeah,
There's
I could see them beating the Bengals after that division too.
Yeah, there's so many teams here you could just flip flop in each conference. It's just these are our predictions, but it's like it easily could go a different way.
Yeah,
it's just the NFL is wide open this year. Who did you have at 2? Did you already say?
NFC?
Oh, you have KC. At 2 for the NFC, I have LA, the Rams.
Oh, I have Tampa Bay.
Because you have the Rams.
I have the Rams as the 1 seed. But I have Tampa Bay at the 2. And really the only reason is the new head coach.
You don't trust Todd Bowles.
They lost. Well, that's not the only reason, really. They lost Gronk. That's going to hurt a little.
They also did lose O.J. Howard to Buffalo, who...
They lost Sue off the defensive line.
Where did he go? Did he retire?
He didn't retire. I think he's
just
still
not back
right now.
Is he just not back?
I think he just hadn't signed with nobody. But I don't think he's going back to Tampa.
Maybe not. I also think OBJ, Tampa Bay could also be an OBJ team.
They could. They did say Chris Godwin will be ready to go week 1 though. So.
Yeah. I have them winning the NFC. Like.
It's Tom Brady.
It's
Tom Brady. I mean, you can't really. I could see them winning it. Yeah, I could see them winning it because it's Tom Brady. I mean, that's why they're so high. That's the only. I mean, yeah, that's why they're so high on mine. I mean, it's Tom Brady. But
yeah, that's. I have them.
There's really no other reason for them being that high. Is Tom Brady. I mean.
Yeah, Tom Brady's. You're guaranteed 10 games with that 10 wins with Tom Brady at the helm.
And they do have. They still got Fournette. They still got Mike Evans.
Yeah, that team's really good, even with the Gronk loss. Like, I think
Gronk
they'll be
loss will
fine.
hurt a little bit. I think.
Yeah, and losing O.J. Howard, like who's gonna play tight end? Is Brait still on the team? I'm not sure, but I think they'll be fine. That obviously leaves Buffalo Bills as the 1 seed in the AFC for both of us.
Yeah.
I think the Buffalo Bills are the best team in football right now. Overall.
I think it's without a doubt Buffalo Bills are the best team in football. And they added Von Miller to that defense, and
the Bills are just across the board amazing. Josh Allen right now is the MVP favorite. Stephon Diggs, top 10 receiver. They did lose Cole Beasley, but I don't think they're losing sleep over that. They drafted James Cook in the mid rounds. They still have Devin Singletary. They brought in O.J. Howard to play tight end with Dawson Knox. The defense is where it's at, though. They still have Ed Oliver. They brought in Von Miller. I think Jerry Hughes left. I think he's on the Texans now. I could be wrong, but Jerry Hughes, probably gone. They still have their safety duo in Poyer and Hyde. Tre'Davious White's an exceptional corner. They still have Tremaine Edmonds, who's 16 still, could be,
Yeah.
Matt Milano. It's such
The only
a
thing
good
stopping
roster.
the only thing stopping this Bills team is coin toss to me.
We appreciate you guys watching. This was such a fun first episode to record. This is definitely going to be a regular thing. Definitely coming back. Please subscribe to the YouTube down below. This is going on YouTube. This is going on Spotify. It's going on wherever you find your podcast. We have links to the podcast Twitter in the description. at H plus Ace podcast. We have links to both of our Twitters in the description. Both of our Instagrams. Follow us on there. Please subscribe. Follow us on Spotify, subscribe to us on YouTube so you can know whenever we drop a podcast episode. So yeah, man, that's the end of the podcast, and we'll see you guys next time. Appreciate it.
Peace out.